So welcome everyone to the Study Abroad for Rausser College Student Information session. Please be advised that this session will be recorded and posted on the Rausser Study Abroad website for your future reference and for any students who missed today's session. My name is Patricia Helyer. I am the advisor for the plant and microbial biology majors in the college. Our presenters today are Michelle Ayazi, Study Abroad Advisor in the Berkeley Study Abroad Office, and Meaghan DeRespini, Advisor for the Nutritional Science major in Rausser. Next slide, please. We'd like to start by recognizing that Berkeley sits on the territory of Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone, the successors of the historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. We recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. Next slide. So to get started in the chat, we invite you to share your name, your class standing, and where in the world you would go if you could go anywhere. So go ahead and type those things into the chat. Love to see what y'all are thinking.
And I was just going to chime in. Sometimes it defaults to chat only to the panelists. If you can chat to everybody so that everybody can see who you are and where you'd like to go, that would be great.
Maybe we can check back on those in a bit. Next slide, please. So let's talk about what we're going to be reviewing today. Michelle's going to start us off by sharing all the Berkeley Study Abroad knowledge at the beginning of the presentation, including reasons you should consider going, where you can go, when you can go, and how to pay for it. Then Meaghan will go into more detail about our college's specific resources and policies for studying abroad. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation, so please hold on to your questions until the end, and then you can type your questions into the chat, making note to share it with everybody, as Meaghan mentioned. Looks like we have some chat responses now. Looks like Thailand or Japan, Samoa, and England. So those are some pretty varied responses. Spain, yes, we're all dreaming of going all the places. Berlin would be lovely. Shanghai, y'all are dreaming good. That's really interesting. Thanks, guys, for sharing. Australia or Maria. Yes, Maria would be fantastic. Good idea. And Paris, who would want to go to Paris? Norway, I got engaged in Norway. That's TMI. Let's move on to Michelle. Go ahead and take it away, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Patricia. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Ayazi, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a study abroad advisor in the Berkeley Study Abroad Office, and I'm just really happy that you're all here today. So thank you so much for your interest and for taking the time to join us. So on the slide, it says, why study abroad? Well, through study abroad, you have the opportunity to live for a period of time in another part of the world. You have the opportunity to meet different people, to have new experiences, to learn about and adapt to new cultures, and to overcome challenges. I think you knew a lot of this already, and that's why you're here. Just like very simply put, study abroad offers students a unique opportunity to learn and grow in a new environment, all the while making academic progress. So hence it being called study abroad. So on study abroad programs, you can take classes to fulfill major requirements, minor requirements, or breadth requirements. You may wish to study abroad and use it as an opportunity to explore a new field of study, or perhaps take classes that aren't available here at Cal. You could learn a new language, or you can continue improving upon a language that you've been studying. You can get practical experience by doing an internship, field work, or even research for academic credit. And you can just have experiences that will allow you to gain a special kind of insight, to network, to develop skills that can positively impact your career opportunities. And there are many, many more benefits to studying abroad, but these are just some of them to get you pumped up. Next slide, please. So where can I study abroad? Well, Thankfully, UC Berkeley students can study abroad pretty much anywhere in the world. Berkeley Study Abroad offers a lot for Cal students to choose from. All in all, we have around 300 programs in around 45 countries. So this includes summer programs, fall semester programs, spring semester programs, and even year-long programs. The exact number of countries and programs offered, it does change from cycle to cycle, year to year, but this is approximately what we have on offer at this time. Next slide, please. So talking about program options now. So like where exactly can you study abroad? What programs are available to you? There are three main types of programs that are available to Cal students. So one is UCEAP. This is the University of California Education Abroad program. UCEAP is the UC system-wide study abroad program provider for UC students across the UC system. UCEAP, they offer summer programs, they offer semester programs, and they offer year-long programs. The hallmark of UCEAP programs is that they offer a diverse portfolio of program types. And I'll explain a little bit about what that means. So like on one end of the spectrum, we have what we refer to as immersion programs. So this is like you taking classes and being a student at a foreign institution, like studying abroad in Singapore and taking classes at the National University of Singapore, or studying abroad in South Africa and taking classes at the University of Cape Town. If you're choosing classes from that university's broad curriculum, you're sitting in classes alongside local students and international students. And so this is what we call immersion programs. So that's on one end of the spectrum of like a study abroad programs. On the other end of the spectrum, so on the far end of that, we offer programs that are like cohort-based programs. These are programs that might run out of a UC study center abroad, like UC Center Paris or UC Center London. And these programs, you're taking classes with other UC students, and you're choosing courses from a set menu of options that might focus on a particular theme or topic. So that's like on the other end of the spectrum. And then UCEAP offers all types of programs sort of in the in-between space. So there are programs that like hybrid versions of those programs. There are programs that offer internships and fieldwork and research options. There are STEM-focused programs, language and culture programs. In some, UCEAP offers a lot for Cal students to choose from. So there's, again, like hundreds of programs in over 40 countries. So that's UCEAP. So in addition to UCEAP, our office, Berkeley Study Abroad, we offer our own homegrown summer programs. And there's two types. One is called Berkeley Summer Abroad, and the other one is called Berkeley Global Internships. So Berkeley Summer Abroad, these are faculty-led programs. So it's essentially Berkeley faculty teaching an amazing Berkeley course, but instead of the course being taught on campus, the course is taught abroad. And then Berkeley Global Internships is kind of how the name suggests. It's a summer program, and it's an international internship program. So students enrolled in the Berkeley Global Internships program do a full-time internship in their chosen field or in a chosen industry for academic credit. And the internship placements are guaranteed for students on this program. And students are usually enrolled in a local culture course while doing their internship as well. So as a side note, for summer 2021 only, at this time, all of the Berkeley Summer Abroad and Berkeley Global Internship programs are virtual. Starting summer 2022, we expect to have in-person programs available again for Berkeley Summer Abroad and Berkeley Global Internships. For UCEAP at this time, they're still offering in-person program for summer and fall and beyond. So I wanted to talk about credit transfer really quickly. So when you participate in a UCEAP or in a Berkeley Study Abroad program, every course that you take through that program will automatically post to your UC transcript. The courses will be listed out on your UC transcript. The grades will factor into your UC GPA. The units will factor into your UC unit count. Like on your transcript, it looks as though you took those courses here on campus. And this all happens automatically. The question of will that course or will those courses fulfill a major requirement, a minor requirement, or a college requirement, that would be up to your major, your minor, or your college. And Meaghan's going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so also when you participate in a UC-EAP or a Berkeley program, all of your financial aid travels with you. And I'm going to talk about that in a couple more slides. And then, so there is a lot on offer through UC-EAP and through Berkeley, but in the event that you don't find what you're looking for through the UC programs, you can look outside of UC programs. There's a whole wide world of programs. We call that whole wide world independent study abroad. The thing to note with independent programs is that you won't earn UC credit and you can't take your financial aid with you. You may be able to earn transfer credit, and we have a detailed guide and we have an advisor on staff that's available to assist you if that's the route that you choose to go. And the next slide, please. Awesome. So when can I study abroad? Yeah, you may be getting excited and wondering when is the soonest that you can go. So like, technically speaking, students who enter Cal as a frosh can study abroad the summer after their freshman year. And students who enter Cal as a transfer student can study abroad after 1 semester in residence. So given where we are in the upcoming application cycle, this means that all of you that are tuning in, the soonest that you can study abroad would be this summer, 2021. So that's the earliest that you can go abroad. In terms of the latest that you'd be able to study abroad, this could be your last semester at Cal. You could spend that term abroad, or it could be the summer after you graduate, or the fall after you graduate. You would just work with your college advisor to move your expected graduation term from spring to summer or fall so that you can participate in a summer or fall program and qualify for financial aid. So that's the earliest that you can go abroad and the latest that you can go abroad, and then just know that you can go abroad pretty much any time in between that. It is possible to study abroad multiple times and stay on track for graduation. It just really takes early planning and just careful planning in close consultation and collaboration with your academic advisors. In terms of like when exactly is the best time to study abroad, often that's determined by what you wish to accomplish abroad, when you can fit it into your degree plan in consultation with your academic advisors, and in what term or terms your program of interest is being offered. And so applications, they're due usually 6 to 9 months in advance of a program beginning. So advanced planning is a must, meaning like if you are looking at a summer or fall program, you'd be applying anywhere between December and February or March of this year. And you know, if you are considering a summer or fall 2021 program, and given the uncertainty around COVID, like if you're interested in studying abroad and you can fit it in, we recommend that you go ahead and apply just to get your foot in so that you have that as an option, all the while having an academic and housing backup plan in place, just in case you change your mind or the status of your program changes. Eligibility does vary by program, so students want to know like what's the minimum GPA. It all varies program by program. I would like you all to know that the majority of our programs are open to all majors. So the majority of programs are open to all majors. We have a few special focus programs that require some background coursework, but the majority of our programs like don't have special prereqs and they're open to all majors. If a program does have a prereq, it usually has to be met by departure, so you can plan in advance for that. In terms of GPA requirements, those vary by program. As I said, we have programs that require a 2.0 GPA all the way to as high as a 3.3, although there's probably just a couple of those that require a 3.3. The majority of our programs are in the around a 2.85 range. In terms of class standing requirements, that also varies by program. So we have programs that are open to sophomores and up, and then programs that are open to juniors and up. So there's no need to wait until your junior year to study abroad if, for instance, you're in your first year right now and you want to go abroad in your sophomore year. And of course, if you're a senior or you're going to be a senior, all of our programs are open to you. In terms of foreign language requirements, There is like a misconception, like some students think that you have to know a foreign language in order to study abroad. Some students might feel like if they don't know another language or feel confident in another language, they have to study abroad in a country where they do have the language background, or it has to be like an English speaking country. And that's really not the case. We have at least one program in each country where all the classes are taught entirely in English and the program does not have any language prerequisites. Of course, you can intentionally choose a program that will allow you to improve upon a language, but you don't need to necessarily limit yourself to programs that are taking place in, for instance, the UK and Ireland and Australia, because maybe you might not know any other languages. It's possible to take classes in English in all of our countries that we offer programs in. And something else that I wanted to touch on is that the majority of our programs are able to accommodate all qualified applicants. So what this means is that as long as you're qualified for a program, like as long as you meet the minimum eligibility for a program and you submit a complete and thoughtful application by the deadline, you have a really, really good chance of being nominated or selected for the program. We do have some programs that have space limitations, but and for those programs, like it might be first come, first serve, or it might be competitive. And it only gets competitive if we have more applications than allotted spaces. But for the majority of our programs, we're able to take all qualified applications. So what this means is that it's like you choose like your program, right? The program that you find to be a good fit for you academically, personally, financially. You meet the eligibility criteria for the program, and then you submit a complete and thoughtful application for that program. And the chances are very high that that's going to be the program that you're going to go on. So it's nothing like the college admissions process. Just in case that was a concern. And so on to how do I pay for study abroad? So you can go on to the next slide. So when you participate on a UC-EAP program or a UC program, all of your financial aid travels with you. So if you're a financial aid student, all of your financial aid travels with you. And then just to confirm, like financial aid, we mean grants, scholarships, and loans from the federal government, from the state, and then also from our institution as well, from Berkeley. All of that goes with you when you study abroad. So that being said, now each study abroad program has its own program budget, right? It has its own total cost of attendance. And this total cost of attendance, it's comprehensive. So when you're looking at a program budget for study abroad, it's comprehensive in that it includes definitely your tuition and fees for the program, but it includes like the cost of your round trip airfare for the program, visas and passports, health insurance, housing in that country for the duration of the program, eating in that country for the duration of the program, local transportation, books and supplies, incidentals. I think I got everything, but it's comprehensive. So that's the total cost of the program, and every program has its own budget. You may be surprised, you may not be surprised to find out that there are some study abroad programs that cost the same as the equivalent term at Berkeley. There are some study abroad programs that cost less than the equivalent term at Berkeley. And there are some programs that cost more than the equivalent term at Berkeley. And a lot of that comes down to the cost of living in your study abroad destination. So if you, for instance, are not a financial aid student and you are looking to make sure that you have a very cost-effective experience, then you may want to include the cost of your program as part of your search criteria. If you're a financial aid student, just know that your financial aid package will be flexed to meet the total cost of your program if your program costs more than the equivalent term at Berkeley. So I'll say that in a different way. If your study abroad program costs more than living at Berkeley and taking classes at Berkeley, your financial aid package will be adjusted. It'll be increased to meet that increased program cost. And for all students, just know that additional scholarships are available to help offset the cost of studying abroad. So that's available as well. And then, you know, under usual circumstances, like in our office, we have financial aid advisors who specialize in study abroad. They work in our office on a part-time basis, and they offer drop-in financial aid advising in our space. Since we've all gone virtual, our financial aid advising, we've retained that. It's just done virtually now. So you can get study abroad advising or financial aid advising for study abroad via email from our office. The cool thing is that like once you've chosen your program, you would email our financial aid advisors and just your name, your SID, your program, and they would let you know how much financial aid eligibility you have for that program. Like they'll let you know what your financial aid package is going to look like for that program. So like before you've even applied for a program, like you can know like how it's going to play out for you financially, which is really, really lovely. So we encourage you to take advantage of that service. So that was a really, really quick overview of how study abroad works at Cal. And hopefully that gives you a better sense of how accessible it is. At the end of the presentation, we're going to share our contact information. So please be sure to check our website to learn more about all of the opportunities that are available, the programs that are available. And then please be sure to contact our office for advising, because that's why we're here is to work with you and to advise you and to help answer your questions. So I'm now going to pass it on to Meaghan, who's going to talk to you about what you need to know as a Rausser College studying abroad, student studying abroad.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Michelle. So hi friends, my name is Meaghan DeRespini. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the nutritional science major and minor advisor in Rausser. And I'm really excited to talk with you a little bit about specific guidelines for Rausser students directly, now that Michelle has given us that great overview of some of the options available and some of the different things to consider as you're planning. So as Michelle outlined in terms of when you can study abroad, these are just some specific things to call out from the college side of things as well. So you need to be on campus at least one semester before you're eligible to participate in a study abroad program. Though of course that's the minimum component for first year students. You would need to wait for that summer after that first year. You also need to be in good academic standing. So that generally means that you're not on academic probation and that you're working with your advisor to make satisfactory academic progress towards your major if you're declared, which brings us to the next point. If you are undeclared in the college, you may study abroad as an undeclared student prior to your 5th semester at Berkeley. If you reach that 5th semester and you're not yet declared in a major, you won't be eligible to study abroad until after you declare your major in the college. And then you'll work with your new major advisor to plan any future study abroad accordingly. And then finally, you'll need to work with your advisor to make sure that you will meet senior residency requirements. This is the number of units that you complete at Berkeley after a certain threshold. This can get complicated. It's complicated sometimes for advisors. So the key there is just to, of course, work with your advisor. And I think we've said that many times. So hopefully that's a good take-home point for you. And this generally is really relevant for students who are considering study abroad in their senior year, just making sure that when you hit the 90 unit threshold, that we're making sure that you have a certain number of units completed on campus. There is also a modified residency rule in place for UCEAP. So again, that's a detail you don't necessarily need to know all the ins and outs of, but just something that your advisor will be aware of as you're planning, especially if you're doing so in that final year. So what's the take home point? Plan ahead, right? Michelle has said it a couple times. I'll say it now. The earlier you have the study abroad conversation with your advisor, the better you can plan to incorporate seeing the world into your degree. And as Michelle mentioned, for example, fall 2021, it might seem like it's decades away with the way that 2020 is going, but many of the deadlines for fall 2021 are coming up in January and February. So that's part of the reason we wanted to time this session when we have, is so that maybe over winter break, you spend some time exploring some of those options and get those applications in at the start of the new year, if you're planning on being abroad next fall, for example. And then let's see, so planning ahead, again, a couple of these things are just reiterating what Michelle has already shared. Part of that process includes working with your advisor on how the study abroad program will fit into your studies. So for example, do you want to study abroad and try to complete major coursework, or are you interested in that specific cultural or academic experience, which might be independent of your major? So maybe you're a nutritional science major, but you really have always wanted to go to Argentina, and there's a program there where you can do local culture and do some Spanish language, and maybe you don't need it to have anything to do with nutrition or biology or anything like that. So those approaches require very different types of planning. And again, that's what we're here to do, is to help support you through that. And then to reiterate with Michelle, many programs don't require language proficiency, but if you do find a program that you're interested in that does have that component, then of course that's a part of the early planning. If you need to be, have completed the equivalent of Spanish 4 on the Berkeley campus, that's, potentially 4 semesters of study of Spanish, depending on where you're coming in. And so that will require some counting backward to make sure that we have you extra ready to go. And so let's take a look at some details for fulfilling specific degree requirements abroad, including both breadth as well as other specific courses for your major. So breadth requirements are different in Rausser than they are in letters and science, which you may have already discovered. They vary by major in our college. So you'll work with your advisor again to make sure that you're doing what you need to satisfy those particular requirements, if that's something that you want to potentially satisfy abroad. Environmental economics and policy is the only major in our college that follows the same 7-course breadth requirement that letters and science requires, and that's because the major is shared between the colleges. The other majors may use categories of letters and science breadth, but might require a subset of all those 7 areas, or you can take all 14 units from one particular area, as is the case in nutritional science. And one thing that we're really grateful to be able to piggyback off of is that letters and science already has a really great breadth database for study abroad coursework, which we link from our study abroad website, which we'll review together in just a minute. And then just to call out really specifically the international studies breadth. So if you are in a major in Rausser that has specific breadth category that can be satisfied by international studies breadth, so there are some majors where one of the breadth categories might be international studies or social and behavioral studies, so you need to choose one from those 2, then you can fulfill the international studies breadth specifically with full participation in a study abroad program, of course with grades of C- or P, and all of the coursework would satisfy that specific breadth area. And now I'd like to highlight some of the tools that we've developed for you, which are accessible on our website. And one of the tools that's not yet accessible, but is on its way, that we're really excited about. And so I'm going to switch us over to our website to take a look at that together. Michelle, I can see your face. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the study abroad? Okay, perfect. So we would like to just take you through this page together. What we've done here is try to highlight the different types of study abroad available to you. So a really quick summary of what Michelle just went through, and then go through some of the sort of step-by-step process for your planning. And a couple of things to call out. One is these are pictures of our very own Rausser students. We put a call out to students who had recently studied abroad and asked them to share some of their favorite pictures. And so we're super excited to have them featured here with some of their thoughts about their experiences. And another piece is, if you've ever happened to see the CED Study Abroad website, we loved the way they did their step-by-step process. So we respectfully asked if we could steal it from them. And so that's how this is outlined in terms of your planning. And so a couple of things I want to draw your attention to while we're here. And one thing is that the reason that we're having this session and offering this to you is Patricia and I especially have been working closely with Michelle and many of her lovely colleagues in the Berkeley Study Abroad Office and at UCAP to really make sure that students think about study abroad. If they didn't think it was something that they could do, we really want to encourage this as a discovery experience for you at Berkeley. It used to be the case that for Rausser, the study abroad was just sort of a couple of lines on our discovery or our like getting involved page. And we really wanted to pull this out as a really specific, wonderful experience that's very unique to your education, your undergraduate education. And so this page itself is relatively new for us because we want to really support you in those efforts. So a couple of things over here on the left side under the useful links, you'll see a couple. I'm not going to open all of them now, but just want to draw your attention to them. We do link directly, of course, to the Berkeley Study Abroad website. We also have 4-year plans by major, and maybe I will actually just open up those to take a look at. So what we did is ask each of our major advisors to come up with study abroad for your plans, right, that can demonstrate to you how you might complete the courses and then plan on a study abroad semester. So for example, this is a CRS plan with UCAP accounted for in the junior spring. And then the other documents may account for UCEAP, or wherever it says UCEAP, that may be some other study abroad type program. UCEAP is sometimes the shorthand for that, but it might be a program outside of UCEAP. And the point here is that these are ways for you to see how you might structure your program to incorporate study abroad. Again, depending on whether the study abroad is specific to your major or is something that is outside of your major, that might affect where you put your study abroad. And one thing that's always important for us to make sure that is that when we have those sample plans, they are just that, they're samples. We know that there are 1,700, and that's probably conservative, but many other variations of what a student's schedule might look like, depending on the test credit you're bringing in or transfer credit or any number of other things. So those are just ways for us to share with you that this is how it could be possible, but also there are many other ways that might happen, right? Summer is an easy way to just sort of fit something in terms of study abroad that doesn't necessarily impact the sort of traditional four-year planning we might do with fall and spring semesters. But, as Michelle mentioned, there are other considerations with summer in terms of, programs available or financial aid, although as she also discussed, like that should be available too, but that may be different depending on the program. So yeah, those are just examples of ways that you can incorporate it. The other things that we have there are the link to the breadth database. So that we mentioned, this is a way for you to search for breadth requirements. I won't open that up now, but that's something that you can play around with as a neat tool. And then the other thing that we have available here is our approval petitions. So and these are some guidelines for how to use the petitions, and then links to the petitions for each of the majors. And so this is if you find a program and this is specifically for wanting to use coursework that you're taking abroad to satisfy major requirements. You can use up to 2 courses to satisfy those major requirements. This is a way that you would work with your advisor and the faculty advisors in your major to petition 1 to 2 courses to count toward a particular requirement. So, and these petitions lead me to the next component, which is not yet available on our website, but which we're really excited about to come. I'm going to switch back to our presentation now. So the next thing that's coming up is that we've been working on a database, a course pre-approval database. And by we, I mean Patricia and I are working with a very lovely developer at the UC Education Abroad at UCEAP office who's doing all of the fancy programming work, and we're providing content. And this is a pre-approval database that will have courses that the college, like our faculty, have reviewed and pre-approved to count towards particular majors, and not just the major, but maybe a specific requirement for the major. So for example, in nutritional science, we have the core required courses and we have elective options. And so this is a class that could count for the elective option in physiology, metabolism, or toxicology, or something along those lines. So what we've done with that database, and we're hoping conservatively to have it available by the start of the spring semester. We may get it up earlier, but that will be available also on the Study Abroad webpage. And the idea there is that we've started with the biology-based majors. And so that for our consideration here includes molecular environmental biology, microbial biology, genetics and plant biology, nutritional science, and then environmental science. And we focused our efforts first to pre-approve courses in those areas because it can sometimes be harder to find some of the biology-specific coursework abroad. And then the next iteration of that will be to have our social science advisors go through, so it's the remaining majors in the college, go through and review coursework to make sure that they're represented in that pre-approval database. So the idea there is that you have this database available where you can search pre-approved courses for your particular major in a particular area within that major if relevant. And then if you don't see something there, because of course it won't be exhaustive, it will be a subset of maybe the most commonly taken courses at different institutions abroad. If you don't see your course there, then of course we have the petition process. And so it's not that if it's not pre-approved, it just can't count. It's that those are some of the more frequently taken classes. And then we would work with you if there's something else that you would want to take to count towards your major. Okay. So yeah, here we are. We're ready to help. Hopefully, again, if you got nothing out of this presentation, you will remember that we are here to help you plan, and that the earlier you do that planning, the better your options will be. So regardless of when you think you might want to study abroad, or even if you're not totally sure that you do, but we hope you do, and that's why you're here, you can take these steps to stay informed. So Berkeley Study Abroad has a newsletter which you can subscribe to, and they can keep you updated on deadlines and important information to know. We have our websites listed here as well. So both Study Abroad and our Rausser Study Abroad. And then of course, plan early and check in with your advisor. And then you can contact Berkeley Study Abroad Advising using their advising guide. So it's this really handy advising guide that we linked here that talks about their staff and peer advising, as well as the financial aid advising, which Michelle mentioned, which is such a wonderful resource. And then of course you can contact your Rausser advisor. Hopefully you already know how to contact your Rausser advisor and who that person is, but we have our advising page, of course, with everyone's information. Bottom line, we want every student who wants to study abroad to see how it's possible to make that happen. So this will end the formal presentation. I think maybe some questions have come in as we've been going, but we'll formally open up the questions. I think we'll probably still plan on doing that in the chat instead of the Q&A. And those can be questions for either Berkeley Study Abroad. Michelle and one of her wonderful peer advisors from the office, Meg, are here to help with those. And or if it's something specific to Rausser, then Patricia or I can help address those. If your question is super specific, like this particular requirement for this particular major, that probably will still need to go to your major advisor. But if it's a little more broad, then of course we're happy to address it here. And I will stop talking now, and we can shift over to answer any of those questions.
So questions have been coming into the Q&A. I think most of them have been answered, except for one asking what is the limit for credits taken at Cal for transfer students? So I'll speak to from the major's perspective for Rausser, and then Michelle, if there is a limit for Cal students, if you might know, you can maybe answer that part. But for your major, there isn't necessarily a limit on credits as much as there is how Megan mentioned before, only a maximum of 2 courses can count towards your major. So I don't know, Michelle, if there might be a rule on units limits for transfer students.
No, I'm not entirely sure like the exact question, but we leave that up to the college to determine. We do for all of our programs, students must take a full course load, and each program has a different, what is considered a full course load. Like some semester programs may require 13 units, some may require 18 units. And students are required to take that full load on the program unless they're a DSP student and they qualify for a reduced course load. But if the unit load required by the program puts a student over the number of units, we just defer to the college to sign off on that and to advise the student. If that's what the student was asking. Please let us know if you have any follow-up questions regarding that.
So it looks like, and this question I'm curious about as well, do graduating seniors still have to take a full course load if they study abroad after graduation? Because for Rausser, like if you're on campus and it's your final semester, we do allow a reduced course load for graduating seniors, but I don't know if that same flexibility would apply for the study abroad program.
It does not. Yeah, so all students have to take a full load and unless you're qualified for a reduced course load through DSP.
Michelle, there's a question on how are things looking for fall 21? Is there a high chance of things being canceled or held virtually? May not know the answer to this, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, the situation is, with COVID is definitely in flux and it's still sort of developing, and we're in a watch and see kind of mode right now. So what we're advising students is if you are interested in studying abroad in fall 2021, to go ahead and apply for a program, but to have a backup plan in place, like an academic and a housing backup plan in place in the event that you decide you no longer wish to go, or in the event that there's a change in the status of your program. But at this moment, all like the fall 2021 programs that are on the website are currently slated to be offered, and we're accepting applications. But I think it's important that everybody has a backup plan in place.
And sorry, I toggled over to the Study Abroad website. One of the questions was about connecting with advising in Berkeley Study Abroad. And so if you start at the Study Abroad website, there's a handy advising link here at the top, and then that gets you connected to the virtual advising guide and their guidelines here. And then if we click on this, we can see Michelle's lovely face there. And you'll see the Study Abroad, the staff advisors cover programs from different parts of the world. And so you can see sort of the different areas, but I wanted to make sure everybody could see where to access that information.
Thank you so much. We have another follow-up question regarding like, how about spring 2022? And so everything that I mentioned about fall 2021, it applies to spring 2022. And at that point, you know, like we're pretty far out from spring 2022. But the applications, because they're due several months in advance, like if you are interested in spring 22, you would apply for that program in late April. So you would apply for it then, plan for it then, but then still be working with your advisors to have an academic backup plan in place. Yes, so when I say academic backup plan in place, it definitely means to go ahead and register for classes for that term until you have a sense of clarity on whether you'd like to participate or on the status of the program.
And then I was going to switch over into the chat. So there's a question about specific Rausser Study Abroad programs like Maria. Patricia, I wonder if you can speak a little bit about Maria. My students don't participate in that program really ever, so I'm not as familiar with some of the guidelines, but the question is, what's the best way to check out information and to plan for that type of program?
Yeah, so Maria is a really fun program. There isn't necessarily one centralized place right this moment that lists all CNR Study Abroad programs. That's what we're working on, right? We have our Berkeley Study Abroad website going up that we've shared the link to in the chat. We are going to have a database that shows and well, not necessarily links to those programs, but shows you which programs count towards satisfying a major requirement in CNR. But so literally, if you just Google Maria, UCAP Maria, it'll come up with a couple of different options. There's a fall Maria program that's in French Polynesia. It's some marine research-based things, but you can also do like wet lab research. If you are, I forget if the student said they were MEB, talk to your major advisor. Your major advisor is going to be very knowledgeable about the Maria program and what major requirements it satisfies. We're hoping by the end of this semester, we will have our database up and you will be able to just see what actually satisfies a major requirement by doing a search by major. But that's TBD. So as soon as we have that, then you actually know what satisfies your major requirements.
I wonder, there's a next question about a program that, so a study abroad program that spans between 2 semesters. So the student would be graduating fall, but there's a program that goes November to February. So, I mean, I'm not sure if there are other thoughts from the study abroad side of things in terms of your degree requirements and graduating. So, I mean, one is that probably is only relevant in a term where we are remote, right? Because if you're completing coursework on the Berkeley campus in fall, you probably can't also be in Japan in November. But if we're still remote by next fall, let's say, then that could be more relevant of a question, I think, unless there's some other component that I'm missing. And then the other question would be, are the courses things that you're completing, like the program that you're completing, is it going towards your major completion in some way? I mean, if you're finishing something in February and it's through UC, or it's an independent program and you want to try to have the units transferred to Berkeley, then you can't graduate in fall anymore. Your graduation term would have to be spring. We can't have you finishing a course in February and still count it as fall. So I think there might be some other sort of asterisks that go along with that question that maybe need some sort of more in-depth discussion. I don't know, Michelle or Patricia, are there other components of that maybe I've missed?
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, please contact us for advising.
Okay. And then I'll just keep going through here. So would we still be able to enroll in classes at Berkeley if we are unsure about fall 2021 abroad happening? I think that maybe Michelle just addressed that in terms of the backup plan is that your phase 1 or phase 2 of enrollment, those things sometimes will happen before you might know for sure what will happen with the program coming up. And so to still enroll in your fall coursework at Berkeley, right, on campus, so that you have that plan in place and depending on what happens with the fall 2021 program. Yeah, Michelle, are there other pieces to that you like to make sure that students, are there anything they need to be aware of as they're enrolling in classes on campus if they also have a pending study abroad application or program?
No, that pretty much covers it. In our office, like once you submit an application to our office, like we'll be in close communication with you and like letting you know to go ahead and register for classes. So once you're in touch with our office, we'll go ahead and let you know to go ahead and do that and answer any questions that come up as a result.
That's great. And then, so just clarifying the last question that we have so far in the chat is, the best way to know what courses will cover our major requirements is to talk to our advisor beforehand with a specific program and they should know. Yes, so right now, the database we hope will be up by the start of the spring semester, and that'll be one place where you can sort of confidently go and see something listed. Okay, great, this is pre-approved. You should of course still be in conversation with your advisor about that, but that there's sort of less guessing about whether it's going to apply. Right now, if you're specifically planning and you want to know about a particular course or program, then yes, connecting with your major advisor is a great place to start, because in absence of the pre-approved database that we're preparing now, you'll work with your advisor to submit one of those petitions to your faculty advisors for their review, to petition for a particular course or 2 courses in your study abroad program to satisfy major requirements. And then the next question is, Michelle, I'll hand to you in terms of applying to 2 programs, fall 21 and spring 22 as a backup in case fall 21 doesn't happen. So in terms of sort of planning, multiple applications, is there anything that students should be aware of if they're hoping to do that?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Typically, students need to obtain the permission of the study abroad advisor if they're planning on applying for back-to-back terms. But if you're applying for back-to-back terms, but you only intend to participate in one of them, there's no reason why we wouldn't allow that. It sounds like a pretty reasonable thing to do. Just let us know that that's why you're applying to back-to-back programs, not because you're intending to participate in those 2 programs. Because if you did, we would have special advising around that. We'd want to make sure that you knew basically everything you need to know about that. But if it's just so that you have your foot in both programs in the event that you can't do the first one, it's definitely okay. Just give us a heads up if that's what you're doing. Thanks for asking that question.
Great. So I think those are the questions that we have so far. Anyone else have anything that they would like to check in on before we conclude things and send you off for the rest of your afternoon or evening? Or morning if you're somewhere else around the world right now. Okay. Well, I think we'll say a big giant thank you to those of you who joined us today. I guess both live and in the recorded version of this, which will be posted on our Study Abroad webpage, likely under that useful links section. We usually hold on to it for a minute to get caption available for those who need it, and then we'll get it up there and available. But please do keep us posted. Let your advisor know if you're planning on this, and hopefully they're also asking you the question. And of course, Michelle and Meg and their colleagues in Study Abroad are really wonderful and great resources. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.